too. It's important to know, even though you have this contract, it is not complete if you don't have the addendums attached that are required, okay? For example, you have this 1 to 4 contract. If it's a third-party finance, like if there's a third-party financing it, you need a third-party finance addendum, right? If the seller's doing owner financing, you need the seller's finance addendum. If it's in an HOA, you need to make sure that this is checked. Addendum for properties subject to mandatory membership in a property owners association. That needs to be checked, and you need to have that addendum added. If you decide to do a buyer's temporary residential lease, remember the portion where we're talking about possession. If the buyer is going to temporarily lease the property 90 days before closing, you're going to check this one and add that addendum. If the seller is going to temporarily stay on the property after closing 90 days or less, you're going to check this and have that form attached, right? Loan assumption. This is a different type of loan. Like say if your buyer is assuming the loan that the seller currently has, you would choose that. That's not very common right now, but it's still an option. The two most common options is third-party finance for sure is number one, and then seller financing, that's kind of an option as well. The other one is addendum for sale of other property by buyer. Let's say, for example, this protects your client if they have another property that they need to sell. They are selling another property and they need the proceeds from that sale in order to purchase this property. This protects them, and this is an addendum you would add. Addendum for, like this is for if the seller has any rights to the oil, gas, or mineral on the particular property you guys are buying. This is what's going to happen to those rights. Are you transferring the ownership over to me? Are you keeping it? But that's when you would utilize this only if the seller has rights to the minerals on the property. What are they going to do with those rights that they currently have? But if they don't have rights, you're not going to select that. You will know they have rights if it's attached in MLS, age and remarks. They're saying something about it, okay? Backup contract. You would check this if you are not the primary on the house. Let's say the house is already in a pending status, but your client really, really loves this house, and you're saying, hey, if anything happens to that, you're going to write a contract and say, if anything happens with that contract and they back out, I'm next in line. You don't have to put it back on the market. I am the backup contract. I will buy this house, okay? So that is, you would have this if they want to do a backup addendum. Coastal area. If the property is in a coastal area, and you will know that by going to MLS. Let's go to HAR. MLS, you're going to go to, we go to age and remark, MLS, age and remarks, attachments to see if they already have that form there. But if they don't have the form there, you're going to go to, let me show you what you do to see if you're in a coastal area. I think I've showed you guys this before, but I'll clear real quick. You're going to pull it up in MLS. And you're going to go to flood map. You're going to go to the layers. You'll take that off, right, buddy? And then you can go here and, yeah. See flood map? If you got flood map up, if that thing will go away. Let me minimize. You see there? If it's blue, if it's in the blue, it's in the coastal area. So you will need a specific form for that, okay? So if it's in the blue coastal area property, you need that. Hydrostatic test. We'll talk about. Well, let's go ahead and talk about it. So when you're doing your option period, you're going to be doing your due diligence. So you're going to be doing your general home inspection, your HVAC inspection. You might be doing well or septic. You might be doing pest and wood eating insects. You might be doing pool inspection. You also want them to be getting insurance quotes. But in that time frame, during the general home inspection, if there's an issue with the drainage, like the brown water is not going out to the like if you're not on well or septic, generally you're on city. So city waste, if anything from the main pipes belong to the city, but from where your pipes connect to the house, that all belongs to you. So if you're flushing the toilet and you're finding there's a backup, like that's not flowing properly, you may have a problem. So if in the general home inspection, they're saying, hey, the brown water is not, running or flowing the way it should, then you may want to do what's called a hydrostatic test. In order for you to do a hydrostatic test, the inspector does it, but you will need authorization from the seller to do so. because things happen. Even with new construction, hydrostatic tests are not out of the option, because those the plumbing pipes to the main sewer system, they're not that deep underground. And with new construction, if you have big heavy machinery rolling over the property, it could bend or break the pipe to the main brown, to the sewer, the main city sewers. And also, as a house is older, or a resale house, if you got roots, tree roots and things like that, they can get into those pipes as well, okay? But you would only indicate that we might need a hydrostatic test after the general home inspection has indicated we got a problem. And so, hey, let's do a hydrostatic test. If you're going to do that, you're going to have to do an addendum and get permission from the seller in order to do such a thing, okay? All right, the next thing is addendum concerning right to terminate due to lender's appraisal. This is only going to be utilized if you're going to be using a third-party finance addendum and it's not FHA or VA, then you need this. We'll go into this in more detail when we talk about amendments, but you only use this if you're third-party finance addendum, but you're not going FHA or USDA. I'm sorry, FHA or VA, okay? So if this is conventional, you need this. If it's if it's conventional, you definitely need this. So USDA or anything not FHA or VA, you need this, all right? This protects your client just in case they go conventional and they don't have anything protecting them. So they get an appraisal, and the appraisal is way higher than what you offer. Nobody wants to pay more for a house than it's worth, right? So this addendum kind of protects your client against that. The appraisal protection is already built into the third-party finance for FHA and VA on this form, but it's not protecting those that are not. So that's why you have this little additional addendum to it, okay? Here you'll select this if your buyer is concerned with any types of environmental assessment threat, then you can fill this out as well. Just only if the buyer is concerned with it. You still want to check MLS, agent remarks, and attachments, because maybe the seller was concerned with it and they did it as well. So always check those things as well. We talked about seller temporary residential lease, short sale addendum. This is an addendum that you would select if the property that you're purchasing happens to be a short sale. So you check that. If you're dealing with a short sale, it should already be an MLS. The agent should have notified you that via MLS, agent remarks, attachments, everything should be in there letting you know you're dealing with a short sale addendum. And you are, go ahead and check that. This is addendum for properties located hey, I'm on the beach. If you're on the beach, or you definitely need this. You're probably in a coastal area too, so you'll need that too if you're on the beach. But this is you are on the beach. This is pretty much saying the Lord giveth land and the Lord taketh land away, but you want to check that. And we'll talk about addendums in their specific later, and I'll have a training on each one of those. This right here, lead-based paint addendum for properties built prior to a certain a certain year. You do need lead-based paint addendum. It is federal law, okay? So if it's built prior to, I think it's 1978, what is it? Yeah, am I right? We talked a bit of it. I know, it's like right over me. If it was if you passed your exam, you should definitely know. Yeah, 1978. Yeah, if it's 1978, you definitely need that addendum. So if it's not, you don't need to check it. But if it is, then you check it. And you can see when a house was built by looking at HAR, going to MLS, and it clearly says the year it was built, okay? And if it was built prior to that time, it may be necessary. It might be already attached, so the seller should be putting it in there, all right? All right, let's continue on. Addenda for property in a propane gas service system service area. Remember I told you if you look on MLS and you go to heating and you see anything about propane, if you look anywhere here you see something about propane, you need that addendum. Also, you're going to check agent remarks to see if they say something about it. You'll also check attachments to see if they have anything about this. This house is so crazy how many times this house is sold. Sorry, I've been in real estate way too long. Anyway, when you recognize houses. Okay, let's keep going. Addendum regarding residential lease. So if there is, remember at the beginning of the contract we talked about this, if there is a lease, somebody that lives on the property that's leasing it, you need addendum, and also fixture leases you need an addendum. So we're going to go back to it. If you have a lease, it should be, you're going to check MLS, agent remarks, and attachment. They should be telling you, hey, I got a lease here. They're going to tell you. But if they're saying you do, you need that addendum. And that addendum, you'll check, make sure these are checked and added to the contract. So residential lease, that right there, in a fixture lease. Remember, fixture leases are things like solar panels, things that are fixed and built into the property, but the owner does not own it. Okay, got it? And when you come to residential fixture leases, remember, leases always supersede a sale. So even though you got a lease on that particular property, it doesn't necessarily mean when somebody else buys it, you get kicked out. They still have to abide by whatever the lease terms are if you have any written. And last but not least, on this little checklist, contains notice of a PID, pay improvement district. We talked about that above. That is, you would only know that if the seller told you or the listing agent told you. So you're checking MLS, agent remarks, and attachments. Okay. And if there are any other amendments or addendums added here, sometimes I like to put mud, you know what I mean? If it's in a mud or something else that I don't have here, then you would attach it. You would check it and write it in, okay? So if you have questions about paragraph 22, let me know. Let you remember your contract is not complete if you have an addendum and it's not attached to it, okay? To this contract. All right. All right, that's all for paragraph 22. Let me make sure I got everything. Yeah. And make sure all these addendums, if you have a copy, they need to be submitted to the title company as a part of the escrow file, as well as to your the lender as well. All parties need a contract copy of everything, including the addendums.